The school bus slid off the ice-covered road, its front wheels cracking to the frozen lake surface. 12 young children screamed in terror as the bus lurched forward. The driver, clutching his broken arm, watched helplessly as the vehicle slowly sank. In the remote lake region of northern Minnesota, winter had turned the landscape into a treacherous frozen wilderness. What began as a routine afternoon school run had turned catastrophic when the bus hit a patch of black ice and veered off the narrow county road. Now the vehicle teetered precariously on Lake Pinewood's edge with 12 elementary students, ages 6 to 10, trapped inside. The driver, Mr. Hansen, had fractured his arm in the impact and couldn't coordinate an evacuation. Outside, the January temperature had plummeted to 5 degrees Fahrenheit, with sunset less than an hour away. The bus shifted again, sliding another inch toward the darkness below. The Pinewood County Sheriff's deputy arrived first, immediately calling for specialized rescue teams. "They're at least 40 minutes out," he announced grimly. The local police had no ice rescue equipment or training. Cell service was spotty, making detailed guidance impossible. 2 officers attempted to approach, but retreated when the ice cracked beneath them. Inside, the children's movements grew more frantic, rocking the bus dangerously. Worse, the ice thickness varied unpredictably, safe in some spots, paper-thin in others. Mike Carson noticed the flashing lights while driving to his mother's house. The 35-year-old former Army Ranger pulled over, grabbing his backpack from the passenger seat. He approached the deputy, scanning the scene with practiced efficiency. "Former Army, cold weather operations experience," he said simply. "What's the situation?" As the deputy explained, Mike's expression remained calm, his eyes continuously assessing the ice, the bus position, the gathering crowd. Without fanfare, he began unzipping his jacket. "I need to know exactly how many children, the locations inside, and when this ice last froze." Mike moved methodically along the shoreline, studying the ice patterns while pulling equipment from his pack. He tossed small rocks ahead of him, listening to the different sound they made hitting the surface, a technique from Ranger ice reconnaissance training. "The bus is maybe 20 minutes before the weight distribution shifts too far," he muttered, crouching to examine a crystalline pattern. "Ice here formed in layers. That's why it's failing unevenly." Through his compact binoculars, Mike observed the children clustered toward the back, where the bus remained most stable. The driver appeared to be keeping them calm, despite his injury. "Temperature's dropping, which temporarily strengthens the ice," he explained to the deputy. "But we can't wait for rescue teams. The vehicle's weight is concentrated wrong, and these ice conditions are deteriorating." A sharp crack echoed across the lake as another section of ice gave way. The bus slid another foot downward, now tilted at an alarming angle. Inside, children's screams intensified. "It's going faster than I calculated," Mike said, his breath forming clouds in the frigid air. The gathering crowd of parents and onlookers created additional pressure. The winter sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the ice. 2 children had moved toward the front windows, their terrified faces pressed against the glass. "They're panicking," the deputy noted. "If they keep moving around like that, the weight distribution becomes unpredictable," Mike finished grimly. The first attempt failed immediately. The tow cable from the deputy's SUV wasn't long enough to reach without driving onto the unsafe ice. A second option, creating a human chain, was deemed too dangerous for untrained civilians. "What about the fire department's ladder truck?" someone suggested. "Too heavy," Mike responded. "Any substantial weight will collapse the surrounding ice." The ambulance crew arrived but had no water rescue equipment. A local mentioned a boat at a nearby cabin, but retrieving it would take precious time they didn't have. "Helicopter rescue?" asked the deputy. Mike shook his head. "They'll never get here in time." And the rotor wash could further destabilize the ice. Mike closed his eyes momentarily, recalling the Arctic survival training course in Alaska. His instructor's voice echoed. "Ice rescue is about strength. It's about distribution, patience, and calm." His pulse quickened, but his Ranger training kicked in. Inhale 4 seconds, hold 4, exhale 4. The combat breathing technique that had kept him focused during ambushes now steadied his mind. Risk assessment flowed automatically. Primary dangers, secondary complications, casualty potential, resource limitations. The faces of the children flashed in his mind. Superimposed over memories of the Afghan village evacuation he'd led during the flash flood. Different scenario, he whispered. Same principles. Mike quickly cataloged their assets. His 50-foot climbing rope, multi-tool, and tactical flashlight from the growing crowd. He identified usable items, blankets, jumper cables, a half-dozen smartphones with flashlights, and a handful of willing volunteers. The police cruiser had emergency blankets and a first aid kit. We need something to distribute weight on the ice, Mike said. Wooden planks, ladders, anything flat and buoyant. A local man offered the plywood sheets in his truck. Another mentioned boat, oars, at his lakeside cabin. That's our start. As Mike rapidly knotted the rope sections together, his mind flashed to the Army Northern Warfare Training Center. The instructor stood on Alaskan ice, demonstrating the technique. Your body is a snowshoe. Distribute the weight. Move deliberately, never rush. The memories shifted to water immersion training. Rangers breaking through simulated ice while instructors shouted, "Control your breathing." Cold shock kills before hypothermia. He remembered the team extraction exercise where they'd rescued a downed pilot from a half-frozen lake using improvised equipment. Use what you have, not what you wish you had, the grizzled sergeant had repeated. Mike blinked back to the present. Here's the plan, Mike announced, gathering the deputies and several volunteers. He drew a quick diagram in the snow. We'll create a distributed approach path using the plywood as weight dispersal platforms. I'll establish 3 anchor points for safety lines, here, here, and here. He indicated positions along the shoreline. We'll need a human relay chain, but not standing, lying flat to distribute weight. He outlined a multi-stage evacuation, first establishing communication and calming the children, then creating a secured path for extraction, followed by a sequential evacuation prioritizing the smallest children first. If the bus shifts significantly or breaks through completely, we immediately switch to Plan B, emergency water extraction. He explained the cold water immersion approach he'd use as a last resort. This contradicts standard civilian rescue protocols, the deputy noted uncertainly. Standard protocols assume standard conditions and specialized equipment. Mike replied, We have neither. This approach builds redundancies into each safety stage. Military Planning 101. Mike demonstrated the Ranger ice traversal technique to the volunteers. Flat on his stomach, arms and legs spread wide to distribute weight, moving with a deliberate swimming motion. Think of yourself as a human snowshoe, he instructed. Never kneel or stand. That concentrates force. He quickly taught them simplified versions of military rescue knots, the bowline for body harnesses, and the trucker's hitch for adjustable tension lines. For communication, he established Marine-style hand signals that would work in the fading light. Simple, unambiguous gestures that couldn't be misinterpreted. To calm the children, Mike used psychological techniques from his hostage negotiation training. Start with their names. Establish trust. Give simple, achievable instructions. Praise compliance immediately. He modified standard equipment with Ranger field adaptations, wrapping duct tape around gloves for better grip in wet conditions, adding reflective tape to the extraction path markers, creating improvised ice anchors from twisted branches secured with complex friction hitches. Adapt and overcome, he murmured, the Ranger motto flowing automatically from his lips. Mike organized the civilians with military efficiency, assessing each volunteer's capabilities before assignment. You're on safety line 1, he told a burly construction worker. Your only job is maintaining tension on this rope. Nothing else matters. He positioned the most level-headed volunteers as relay team members, the strongest as anchor points, and those with medical training at the shoreline reception area. We operate as a unit, he emphasized. No individual heroics. Clear communication. Every person has a critical role. He installed the deputy as shore commander, organizing the emergency blankets and warm vehicle staging. The Ranger creed applies today, Mike said firmly. No one gets left behind. With the safety line secured around his waist, Mike began his approach. He moved across the ice using the Ranger crawl, body flat, weight distributed across his entire frame, arms and legs spread wide. The plywood sheets provided additional distribution points for the most dangerous sections. 20 feet from shore, he paused to test a suspicious area by gently shifting minimal weight. When a hairline crack appeared, he redirected his path. At the bus, Mike established his first anchor point, driving a specialized ice screw from his pack into a solid section. Through the rear window, he established visual contact with the driver first, then the children. Help is here. The evacuation had barely begun when disaster struck. The bus lurched violently as a major section of ice failed. The vehicle tilted sharply, now almost half submerged. The emergency exit Mike had been using suddenly underwater. "Plan B," he shouted, instantly shedding his outer jacket. Before anyone could react, Mike slid into the frigid water, the shock of cold stealing his breath despite mental preparation. He forced himself to control his breathing. For seconds in, for second hold, for seconds out, fighting the automatic gasping reflex that drowns ice water victims. Using powerful strokes, he reached the bus's side window. The Ranger waterproof pouch on his belt contained his multi-tool, which he now used to smash the side window furthest from the submerging section. "Safety line secure," he called, creating a makeshift harness from his tactical belt combined with the rescue rope, anchoring it to the bus's roof rack. The only part still definitely above water level. Send the first child. The water temperature was approximately 28 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to kill within minutes. Mike's face contorted with pain, but his training held. Rangers were taught to function through the initial cold shock phase, using controlled breathing and mental focus to overcome the body's panic response. His fingers quickly lost sensation, but muscle memory took over for complex tasks. The rope work remained precise, each knot an anchor point secure with methodical care despite the numbness spreading through his extremities. "Mind over matter," he grunted through chattering teeth, recalling the Ranger instructor's mantra. "Your body will quit long before you actually have to." 6 children were safely transferred ashore when the bus shifted again, breaking Mike's tenuous footing. He was fully immersed for nearly 30 seconds before regaining position, yet immediately continued the evacuation. "You need to get out of that water, sir," the deputy called. "Rescue team's 10 minutes out." Mike didn't waste breath responding. The textbook survival time in such conditions was perhaps 10 minutes. He'd been immersed for over 7. His body temperature was dropping dangerously, evidenced by his increasingly mechanical movements. Still, he returned to the bus for the 7th child, then the 8th. Medical protocols meant nothing when children remained in danger. Mission first. For the final extraction, the driver and last child, Mike employed specialized Ranger water rescue techniques. With the bus now almost fully submerged, he created a floating support using his backpack and the driver's seat cushion. "Arms around my neck, legs around my waist," he instructed the terrified 10-year-old. "Like a koala bear. Don't let go." The return journey required every ounce of his training. He maintained a diagonal path to counter the current created by the sinking bus, using minimal energy expenditure techniques from survival swimming. With the shore just 15 feet away, his muscles began failing. That's when the human chain extended. The final volunteers lying flat on the ice, reaching forward. "Got you, Ranger." The children, wrapped in emergency blankets, watched wide-eyed as their rescuer collapsed on the shore. The smallest girl, the first one rescued, broke away from the paramedics and placed her own blanket over Mike's shoulders. "You're a superhero," she whispered. Parents embraced their children, many openly weeping. Mr. Hansen, the driver, couldn't speak through his tears, simply clasping Mike's shoulder with his good hand. The crowd that had gathered, initially skeptical of the strange approach, now stood in respectful silence. "In 20 years of emergency response," the deputy said quietly, "I've never seen anything like that. Those children were dead without you." All 12 children, and the driver survived without serious injury. Mike, diagnosed with moderate hypothermia and minor lacerations, refused to be transported until every child had been examined. Local news crews arrived as paramedics finally convinced him to accept treatment. Community members quickly organized a hot meal station for first responders and families. When the specialized rescue team finally arrived, their captain assessed the scene and simply stated, "Textbook impossible rescue." From his hospital bed, Mike deflected praise during a brief interview. "Anyone with my training would have done the same," he insisted. The real heroes were the volunteers who immediately stepped up to help strangers. When called a hero, he smiled tiredly. "I'm just a former ranger who happened to be driving by. The Army taught me the skills. I just applied them. Nothing special about that." The story exploded across local media. The national outlets picked it up. Pinewood Elementary organized a special assembly honoring Mike. The county commissioner issued a formal commendation. Social media filled with parents' emotional testimonials. A video of the rescue, captured by a bystander, gathered millions of views. Veterans groups across Minnesota reached out in support, proudly highlighting how military training continues to serve communities long after soldiers return home. "This is what Rangers do," wrote one veteran, on or off duty. During a brief thank you ceremony at the school, Mike finally spoke about his motivation. "Rangers live by a creed," he told the gathered families. "Never shall I fail my comrades. I will never leave a fallen comrade. That doesn't end when a uniform comes off." He knelt to the children's level. The most important mission is always bringing everyone home safely. That's what soldiering really means. The incident catalyzed community action. The school board implemented ICE safety education programs. Emergency services acquired specialized ICE rescue equipment and training. 3 of the rescued children began writing to deployed soldiers. The county established an annual Winter Safety Day featuring demonstrations by local veterans sharing survival skills. As Mike prepared to leave town, the deputy asked why he'd risked everything for strangers. "Military service isn't just about war," Mike replied. "It's about being ready to serve whenever needed. The greatest honor of my training is using it to bring families together, not apart." This rescue reminds us that veterans carry invaluable skills into civilian life, heroes hiding in plain sight among us. Have you ever witnessed a veteran using their training in an unexpected way? Share your stories in the comments below. If this story of sacrifice and service moved you, please consider subscribing for more extraordinary accounts of everyday heroes who prove that military values continue long after the uniform comes off.